In the news this week, government plans to tackle extremism are described as alarming and dangerous. Scotland's Deputy First Minster comes under fire over misleading named person statistics. And the BBC has been fiercely criticised for a children's programme about transsexualism. Hello. The independent reviewer of terrorism legislation has said that in his 6 years in the job, the single document that alarmed him most was a 2015 version of the government's counter-extremism proposals. This was despite him having access to a large amount of secret material and surveillance and the operation of terrorism law. Welcoming a promised consultation on the plans, David Anderson said he hoped it would cover whether extra laws in the area were necessary at all. Anderson made the comments on BBC Radio 4's Law in Action.
Over the last 6 years, I've seen an awful lot of secret material, everything to do with the operation of the laws against terrorism, everything to do with surveillance. I think the single document that has alarmed me most was the early draft, I emphasise, of the counter-extremism bill that I saw in the summer of 2015. Since then, we've seen nothing definite. We've had a commitment, which I welcome very strongly, of consultation on every aspect of this proposal. I hope that the consultation extends not only to the details or whatever might be proposed, but also to the question of whether it is necessary to have a law in this space at all.
The Christian Institute is working to stop extremism disruption orders as part of the Defend Free Speech group. Responding to the comments, Defend Free Speech said David Anderson is well placed to assess the government's approach to counter-extremism. He is saying very plainly, very robustly, that the government is on the wrong track. Scotland's Deputy First Minster has been accused of using flawed statistics in his defence of the controversial named person scheme. In September, John Swinney told MSPs that a pilot version of the scheme in Highland was responsible for a 68% drop in referrals to the Children's Reporter, the authority responsible for assessing child welfare concerns. However, research by campaigners shows that nationwide referrals fell by a similar amount and that many local authorities actually saw a bigger reduction. Campaign group No to MP criticised ministers for making utopian claims and said many councils that were not running a named person pilot scheme saw bigger reductions in referrals than Highland. It comes as families whose private lives have been intruded upon by officials contemplate legal action. The Information Commissioner's Office produced advice in 2013 stating that the Data Protection Act should not be viewed as a barrier to proportionate sharing. No to MP said families had been in touch after uncovering that sensitive personal data had been passed around. They are rightly furious and some are considering their legal remedies. In the wake of the Supreme Court decision against the named person scheme, the ICO issued new guidance. The BBC has come under fire from parents and MPs over a programme about transsexualism aimed at 6 to 12-year-olds. Just a Girl is about a boy who calls himself Amy, played by an actress. It is available on the CBBC website and has been branded completely inappropriate. In the programme, Amy is already taking hormone blockers to make a future sex change easier and regularly discusses what it means to be transgender. MPs are among those who have spoken out to express their anger and concern, but the BBC has strongly defended the programme. Peter Bone MP said he would write to BBC bosses to have it taken down, stating it is completely inappropriate for such material to be on the CBBC website. I entirely share the anger of parents who just want to let children be children. BBC Children's Director Alice Webb responded to criticism by saying that part of the BBC's public service role was to stimulate conversation and that Just a Girl was presented in an age-appropriate way. She added, "I'm very proud of that show." And finally, a new technique for screening unborn babies for Down syndrome will be rolled out by the NHS, the government has confirmed. Non-Invasive Prenatal Testing, or NIPT, will be available on the NHS from 2018. NIPT is a blood test that is claimed to be 99% accurate at predicting the likelihood of unborn children having Down syndrome. Strong opposition came from the Don't Screen Us Out group, which said, "We are very disappointed that the Department of Health have approved the NIPT rollout without consultation with the very group that this is going to have the biggest impact on, people with Down syndrome and their families." Lynn Murray from the group added that the rollout could result in an increase in the number of children with Down syndrome screened out. Head of Communications at the Christian Institute, Kieran Kelly, said NIPT has its roots in the idea that some people's lives have no value.
All human beings are made in the image of God and have a special, intrinsic value, regardless of how young or how old, able-bodied or disabled that life might be.
Well, that's all for this week. For regular updates and information on all our stories, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. Until next time, goodbye.